What's up, everybody? My name is Lee Shaner, and you're tuned into You Feel Me. It's funny meeting you this way on this podcast because the first moment that I heard your single, No Going Back. Yeah, No Going Back. Instantly, I was like sharing it on Twitter, and I was like, everybody go listen to this. And then you tweeted back at me, and I was like, oh, shit. And you knew about my other podcast, and I was like, oh, let's do it. And so we've been going back and forth for like a fucking year. Yeah, and so now here we are finally here. I feel like the pressure's on. Got to make this a good interview because of the build-up. You know what I'm saying? There's been a lot of teasing back and forth. But
it's definitely like a relaxing interview for me because it's like, oh, yeah, we've already talked before.
Yeah, exactly. So, we were vaguely familiar with each other's output. But yeah, the record, Moodie, just came out like, what, a couple months ago?
Yeah, sometime this summer.
It's so good.
Thank you.
I love it. I was listening to it again on the plane today to kind of like refamiliarize myself with it. But I mean, it's such a great record. It's such like a bright, cheery, like even when it deals with sad topics, it still sounds relatively like upbeat. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's kind of like that really famous Beach Boys record that I can't think of.
Pet Sounds?
Yeah, like Pet Sounds, where it's like deals with sad shit in a happy way, kind of.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I never thought about it that way, but yeah, totally. It's like I like to make stuff, like if I have something sad to write about, I want to write about it, but I don't want to make something that sounds sad. I want to make music that makes people happy.
Right.
So even if they're just ignoring the lyrics, they can still be like,
I could dance to this. I could fuck with this. I could get jiggy to this. Yeah, that makes sense, man. And it is. It's very like upbeat and poppy and bright and yeah, it's great. I love it. So let's talk about where that happy sound comes from. Are you from the Pacific Northwest?
No, I'm from Florida.
You're from Florida?
Yeah, Jacksonville.
I don't do my research, and that's fine because I like to learn stuff.
Yeah.
So you're from Florida, born and raised out there?
I was born in New York, but I moved to Florida when I was like 9 months old.
A kid, yeah. How's Florida? That's kind of like a backwards-ass state, isn't it?
Yeah, it's weird, but it's just kind of like boring. Jacksonville is just kind of like a place. I don't know. I never know how to describe it. Yeah. There's not much going on. There's like the stuff I used to do as a kid, like go to the mall and stuff. The mall that I went to was like half closed down now. There's like no
that's
stores
like malls
there.
in general.
Like, yeah, true. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess there's not a lot.
Where's Jacksonville at?
It's at the top of Florida. It's like right next to Georgia. So like the further north you go in
like
Florida,
gets more country.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's the very top of Florida.
Yeah. Is there industry in Jacksonville? Like, how'd your family end up in Jacksonville?
It was during when I guess like before like the economy kind of collapsed and stuff. My dad was pouring concrete and like building foundations for houses and driveways and all that stuff, and they're building a lot of new houses
in Jacksonville.
Yeah, exactly. So he started a concrete company with my uncle, and then that's why we moved up to Jacksonville because there's a lot of work up there.
Yeah, there you go. That's a smart opportunity.
Yeah.
So you've been there since you were 9 months old, you said?
No, I've been in Florida since I was 9 months old. I've been in Jacksonville since I was about 10.
Okay. Yeah. And so where were you at before that?
I was in this town called Largo, which is near Clearwater, kind of Tampa Bay area.
Yo, I've been to Clearwater.
Oh, cool.
Very weird beach culture there. Yeah. Like it's like it's a beach. It's a beautiful beach with very white sands that's kind of like baby powder, right? Mm-hmm. But it's like everyone sitting on the beach, it seems as though it's their first time ever being on a beach. Does that make sense?
That sounds about right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Florida beach culture is strange. Yeah. So like, do you remember anything from Clearwater and that stuff? Largo?
Not like too much. Just because just like, I don't know, my elementary school times, but it was like the times where I was like starting to, I guess, like become a person. You know
right.
I mean?
So when you were becoming a person at that young age, were you already kind of like, were people already noticing that you were like a creative kid?
Yeah, I was doing a lot of drawing and stuff, whether it be like Pokemon or Dragon Ball Z characters or whatever, just like using my imagination, putting on plays for my family members in the backyard and stuff like that.
Putting on plays and drawing, these are all signs of future musicianship is what I've learned. Like, I hear that so much, you'd be surprised.
Oh,
like,
really?
Yeah, for me, when I was a kid, Pokemon wasn't a thing yet, so I would draw Ninja Turtles. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't a big play guy, but it was like I would make my family sit down and watch me like lip sync to crisscross music videos, you know what I'm saying? So kind of the same thing. You feel me?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Were you a reader as a kid too?
Yeah, I'd go to the library sometimes to get like these books like the Zach Files, or it was called, where it was like kind of like paranormal stuff, and Captain Underpants. I was a big Captain Underpants fan.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, you seem like a studious kid. I don't know, like I listen to your music and it sounds like I don't know, you seem like you would be a reader, like you're well read.
I don't really read books anymore. No, and I did terribly in school just because like I don't learn well from other people teaching me things. I learn best when I'm teaching myself things.
Yeah.
So like I homeschooled myself for 11th and 12th grade, and I did way better. And I got way better grades because I was doing the research myself and kind of learning myself and absorbing things more.
even from a young age, like in elementary, you were doing bad in school? Because did you
like,
learn that about yourself? Yeah.
In elementary school, but it was specifically like in middle school. Like that's when it started to get like harder and harder for me to just learn from other people. And I don't know, it just wasn't my thing. Even with instruments and stuff, I took guitar lessons for maybe 2 weeks and then quit, and then just taught myself songs and looked up guitar tabs online for songs that I actually liked.
Yeah.
And taught myself those, and then going to school, bringing my guitar, and then I have other friends that would play guitar, and we'd learn some song that we all liked.
I just learned this. Here, I'll teach you how to play it.
Exactly. And like there might be a harmony part, so the other person want to learn that. And it was more of that thing that taught me how to make music.
That's tight. Were the adults in your life like, oh, what's wrong with him? We need to do testing. Like, were you like ADD testing and all that?
Yeah,
shit?
I got diagnosed with ADD. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember my mom like sent me to some like kind of after school thing where they like did extra teaching or whatever, like kind of like a I guess tutoring type of thing.
Yeah.
But that didn't help at all.
Really?
I was telling her at the time that she's wasting her money. I still feel like she did, but I don't know. She tried though.
Yeah, she tried.
Yeah, she tried.
So your folks stuck together?
Yeah.
Oh, that's tight.
Yeah.
Nice, solid family background. That's a rarity in music.
Well, kind of. It's like my birth father.
Yeah.
He's been gone like forever or whatever, and then my stepfather. He's been there since I can remember, maybe since I was like 3 or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, they've been together for.
There we go.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Have you ever listened to any of my Kind of Neat episodes? One of the ongoing themes is that like bad dads make for great music. Every musician that I meet, they're like, "Oh yeah, my fucking real dad dipped out when I was young." So there you go. Yeah, real dad dipped out. Any relationship with him now?
No, never really talked to him or anything.
Really?
Just,
you guys met though?
Yeah, I've met him and stuff, and I remember probably when I was about like 9 or something. That's probably the last time I remember he came to visit. He came to Florida, which used to live in New York, and then now he lives in England. So now I'm doing a tour in Europe soon. So I'll see a bunch of family, but I don't know if he knows about it. I'm not gonna invite him or anything.
You just snitched.
Yeah.
Yuno's dad. He's gonna be in Europe. Go find this boy.
Royal Albert Hall in London. So we'll see if I let him in.
Put him on the guest list just in case.
Yeah.
That's interesting. You don't have any desire to like respark that relationship?
Not really, because I don't really feel like I need it. Yeah.
So your stepdad stepped in and like raised you like that's your dad.
Yeah, exactly.
That's tight.
Yeah, that's what I call him. I call him my dad.
Yeah, for sure. What'd your mom do?
Isn't
I like work and stuff.
Oh, work. She like works at like a bank, and she's I don't know, some sort of like assistant or something. And she'll explain it to me, and I still won't remember exactly what it is.
Yeah, so it's like a just you have a job.
Just a job.
That's tight. So like, did you get into sports or anything as a kid in Florida?
Just skateboarding.
You skated.
Yeah, that was basically it. I wasn't that good or anything.
But did you get obsessive over it?
Yeah, I was definitely into I played like Tony Hawk games and stuff, and watched like a bunch of skate videos and stuff like that. And then I just go like skate with my friends, but I didn't have any friends that were really good, and I was never really good. It was just a fun kind of thing.
Did you learn a lot about music through that though?
Yeah, definitely. That's how I got really into music and discovering new types of music, was like the music that was in skate videos or in video games and stuff.
Yeah, I hear that from a lot of folks.
Mm-hmm.
What were the kind of the bands that you first got into, or rappers or whomever like?
Yeah, like Del the Funky Homo Sapien.
Yo, that's like everyone that I talk to that's like, oh yeah, I grew up skating. I'm like, oh, what did it get you into? They're like hieroglyphics.
Yeah.
And Del.
Yeah.
So Del the Funky Homo Sapien. Which record was the one that you got into?
It wasn't even records. I was always listening to singles. Especially at that time in my life, it was just whatever singles I could find.
What was the one on Tony Hawk 2? Wash your ass if you must. Yeah. That's a big one.
Yeah, that was a really good one.
Both Sides of the Brain. That was that record. That was Del was at one point my favorite rapper.
Oh wow.
Yeah, when I was like probably 18 or 19, that was like my guy.
Yeah, that was one thing also, is like I got really into like nerdcore hip hop and stuff, and MC Lars and MC Chris and MC Front a lot and stuff, and Del like ended up kind of getting into that world. Yeah, I guess because he's into video games and stuff, and skateboarding also. He's been skating.
Did you ever see him perform live?
No.
So back in the day, like in the I guess mid 2000s, 2004, 2005, he would perform and kind of like between songs sit down and just play like pocket held whatever. I must have been a Game Gear Plus or something. I don't know, fucking whatever. I don't know enough about video games, but he would take out a console like and just play it on stage and like kind of zone out, and people were like, "Wow, Del is really out here."
Yeah, he's a real gamer.
Yeah, for real. He had that song about Dreamcast and shit. Anyway, blah blah blah. Okay, so did you have initial dreams of being like a bedroom producer for rap music, or like were you rapping at any point?
Yeah, when I first started, I was making like funny rap songs for my friends and stuff. Basically, the first song I made was
because of the nerdcore shit.
Kind of. They had like that, and like even like Beastie Boys and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah.
And yeah, I had a school project where I tried to do extra credit stuff just to get my grades up, so I'd do something creative for a class, basically.
Make a rap.
Yeah. So I made a video with these puppets. We were learning about pirates, so I made pirates of the different puppets I made puppets of the different pirates we were learning about. And then one of them, I was like, oh, this one should have a funny rap. So I had my cousin teach me how to make a beat in Fruity Loops, and I'd like tell him like what to do and like, oh, make this sound and all that stuff. Yeah. And then wrote some funny rap, and then my friends liked it, and then I was like, oh, let me make more of these. Yeah. And I was always trying to start like rock bands with my friends, and it would never happen. We'd like make a logo and be like, oh, these are our influences, but then we'd never have a band practice or anything. So then I realized like, oh, I can make a beat, I can play guitar, I can just put these things together and make my own songs. Yeah. And I was actually seeing MC Lars, one of those like nerdcore rappers, live, that made me realize that I could do it myself, because he was just on stage with him and his laptop, and I was like, oh wait, like,
just like playing an Ableton set or something. Yeah,
exactly. And I was like, oh, I can just do this. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so that's how I got started making my own music.
This older cousin that had Fruity Loops, was he like a big influence on you musically, or what? Did he teach you more stuff about Fruity Loops?
No, like he was just like doing it for fun. Really, really with the both of us, he's always been like the more intellectual one, and like I've always been the creative one. So even when we're playing video games or something, there'd be some level that like we couldn't figure out, and I'd figure out what we have to do to beat it, but then he'd be able to actually technically beat it. And so stuff like that. So
you're the idea guy, and he's the button pusher.
Exactly.
Yeah. So everybody needs a Quincy Jones.
Exactly.
That's great. So this class project, did you just like record a song and make a video to it, or did you do it live in class, or what?
Oh yeah, I made a video. It was like like a video with all these puppets and stuff. Yeah, and then I recorded the song and just kind of played it and had the puppet do a little lip sync thing.
You like got it around to the homies, like what, on YouTube or something? Like,
no, I don't even think we're really using YouTube at the time. But yeah, I just played it like on a VHS tape in class.
Oh, VHS. Okay, it was like it was a long time ago then. Yeah. And so did you get good extra credit for it though? That's the real question.
Yeah. I got extra credit for history class, and then I brought it to art class because I made puppets.
Got double dip.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's great. And so you download Fruity Loops then, and you're tinkering with it at home. Did you just kind of did the rest of your world kind of evaporate, and you just like shed after school? Like you would just be at home like figuring stuff out and obsessing on Fruity Loops, or did you maintain a regular life as well?
I mean, I don't know. Like I never really had much of a social life. Maybe like my friends would come over every once in a while or something. I'd go over to a friend's house, but that stuff continued. But like when I was at home, or even sometimes when I was at school, I'd bring my laptop to school or my guitar to school, and I'd be learning on there. But also at the same time, I was learning about like Photoshop and learning about video editing and all these other things, just because like I was making all these projects for school, so I needed to learn how to edit videos and just learning that stuff for fun, kind of all at once. And all that stuff made its way into my music, so I can design my album artwork and make a music video and all that stuff.
Yeah, so like truly independent artist, you gotta like kind of have your hands in everything, right? Yeah. So did you excel in art class as well, like in visual art classes?
It was one of those things like I only took one art class, and it was a lot of like art history and stuff like that.
So not actually doing.
Yeah, so I'd even have to do like some extra credit for that class too, because of the same thing. It was just like stuff I didn't really care to learn that much about. I didn't care too much about the history. I just wanted to draw and stuff.
Right.
And then even like my school didn't have a music class, but I went and like tried to petition for a music class, and I got all the signatures I needed, but we still didn't get the class.
There's no music curriculum at your school?
No, there apparently was. Like before I got there, it was a really small school. Yeah. And apparently there was before, but they, I guess, just stopped it, and they had the instruments laying around still. Yeah. So they'd have them in the kind of cafeteria, which was really the multi-purpose room. And every morning at the like before school started, my friends and I, we'd go in there and we'd play instruments and stuff. And a lot of them used to be in the music class, and I was the only person that the teachers let play those instruments that wasn't in the music class before. Yeah. So that was cool, and that was a way that it helped me get really into
that. Is cool, but that also strikes me as very sad, like for the American public school education.
Well, it was a private school.
Oh, private school. Well, still for private schools too, like quit defunding music. You know what I'm saying? Like, damn.
Yeah.
That's crazy. What age was it? Did you say that you actually picked up a guitar?
It's probably like 13, 12, something like that.
Yeah, and who was it that made you want to pick up a guitar?
I was just walking in the flea market, and I saw like a $20 nylon acoustic guitar. Yeah. And I told my dad, I was like, I really want a guitar. Like that was the first time I'd ever seen a guitar like in person.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I was just like, I really want the guitar. And he's like, are you gonna play it? I'm like, yeah, I'll play it. He's like, if I'm gonna spend $20 on this guitar, you better play it.
He said, boy, this concrete business has got to go that strong. $20.
$20.
Yeah.
So then he bought it for me, and I started learning guitar, and I just played on that for the longest time.
Was it in tune? Like, did you know how to tune it at first?
No, I might have learned that. Maybe that was one of the things I learned in that 2-week guitar class. Because
I could just imagine like you as a 13-year-old with this nylon acoustic guitar all out of tune, trying to plunk things out. Like, what the fuck?
The first thing I learned was the only thing I learned in guitar class was Louie Louie, was just dun, 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 dun.
That's so funny. That's the first thing you learned?
Yep.
I feel like everybody learns Come As You Are first, like the Nirvana song.
When I got an electric guitar, I learned the guitar solo for Like a Stone by Audio Slave. That was one of the first things I learned.
Okay.
Yeah, it was kind of like probably like a very simple version of it.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
So how long was it after you got the guitar before you started taking the lessons and learning Louie Louie? Was it like immediate? Like, okay, if you're going to get this, you got to go to class?
Yeah, it was pretty much immediate, maybe like a month or something.
Okay,
I remember I had like a little book that I was trying to read for a while that would like try to teach me stuff. But
yeah,
I never really learned that well from that. Definitely the thing that made me learn was like songs that I liked and wanted to know how to play. Then I was like, let me work until I can play this song on guitar.
Other than Audio Slave, which ones do you remember like wanting to learn?
There was a lot of like stuff like Chick Magnet by MXPX, that bass line. Yeah,
I used to love MXPX.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, it was funny because that was when I found out like what punk was.
Yeah,
because I really liked the Wonder Years. I was watching the reruns of the Wonder Years, and I liked the theme song, so I was looking it up online. I was like, I just typed in the Wonder Years, and then I saw MXPX the Wonder Years, and I was like, oh,
so you like stumbled on them accidentally. You were looking for Bob Seger and found MXPX.
Yeah, and
that's
I was like,
amazing.
this isn't the theme song, but I like this. And
yeah.
Then ended up looking up more about them, and then finding out about like a lot of other bands and stuff.
No way. That's so funny, because I have to be like probably 15 years older than you, and I found out about MXPX when I was like a freshman in high school as well, because they've been around forever. Yeah. Like it was like their first. It was like back when they were like still a pretty Christian punk rock band, you know. Anyway, punk rock. It's timeless.
Yeah, definitely.
So after MXPX, what else?
Like AFI and Rancid and Him and like a lot of stuff like that. And then there's a lot of like metalcore stuff like As I Lay Dying and Killswitch Engage, who's from Jacksonville.
Oh,
and,
nice.
Different stuff like that.
Did you start going to shows and stuff?
No, I've only been in my life to 4 shows that I didn't play.
Shut up.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
I just didn't leave my house really. The first show I went to was that MC Lars show that made me want to start making music. Second show was Alt J in New York, and then when I went and met with Sub Pop, they took me out to 2 shows. So those are the 4 shows.
Is Sub Pop still based in Seattle? Yeah. Okay, so that's why I was asking if you're from the Pacific Northwest, just so that didn't seem so random to everybody. But I was like, oh, you must be from Seattle. Wow, only 4 shows. That's wild. I spent like all of my teens and 20s going to concerts, and like it was like very formative. But that's where I would see bands like MXPX and shit like that.
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
I guess a lot of bands didn't really come through Jacksonville.
It doesn't seem like a real cracking scene, does it?
No.
Why were you such a shut-in?
I don't know. I guess I'd always been that way, and then probably like just having my parents be like, "Be careful, we don't want this and that to happen." Or whatever.
Is Jacksonville a dangerous city?
I'd say kind of certain areas and stuff. I remember at one point people were saying it was like the murder capital of something.
Is it like is it like a racist ass city?
I mean, there's like that exists there, but I'd say like in my neighborhood especially, it's like very mixed and stuff. Okay. There's like a lot of different ethnicities like in my neighborhood, and even like in my middle school, there's a lot of diversity and stuff.
Okay.
So, but like it's definitely something that's there and experienced, and all the time. Like I'd have friends, I'd go over to their house and they'd be like, "This is my black friend," to their parents, because they're like, "Yeah, my parents are kind of racist, so I'm just gonna bring it up," type of thing. And stuff like that. Yeah.
Wow.
And it's been weird, and like parents saying like, "You
What's
sound
that like
white on the
as a
phone."
Kid? Wow.
Yeah.
What's that? What are those microaggressions like dealing with as a kid?
It was one of those things I just got used to. Yeah. Because especially, and a lot of times trying to make it funny, because I'd even get it from like other kids, like in middle school especially. Like there'd be like the white kids that I'd be friends with would be saying like, "Oh, you're my only black friend, and you act so white and blah blah blah, but you're cool. Right. You're the coolest black guy I know."
Oh, you don't act like other black people.
Exactly. And then the other black kids at my school, they'd be like, "Why are you acting white? Like act real. Like you're faking. You're not really like skateboarding. You don't really like rock music." Like, yeah. So I'd get it kind of from both sides. So I'd always just kind of try to like laugh it off. It never really.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, does that make you feel kind of like stuck on an island by yourself in a sense? Like you're I mean, I get that, you know, that Earl line, too black for the white kids, too white for the black type of thing. Like it seems kind of like
it was
very isolated.
Yeah. It was kind of isolating, but also it like just made me feel like I could kind of float around. Like, and I was always like the type of kid who was friends with a bunch of different groups of people and stuff. And just making everything into like a joke or a funny thing made people like kind of be like, whatever. Like, it's, especially when people were trying to make things bother me and I showed them that clearly didn't bother me, then they kind of gave up on trying to mess with me. So.
Sad clown, bro. you got the sadness deep inside you, but you make the music sound happy. I mean, come on, we're getting to the root of things here. So other than hold up by yourself after school making music, what else was there? Video games?
Video games for a while until like I broke my PS2.
Oh,
and
sad
then I stopped playing video games pretty much after that.
And then just stuck with the music.
Yeah, just stuck with the music.
So when do people start taking notice of the music? Like, did you put out little EPs in high school and shit?
It was kind of a really gradual thing. I put out like one EP a long time ago, and I just put out a lot of singles. Like, I put out songs on MySpace, then I would like go to other artists that I thought were kind of similar that I liked and see who commented on their page and then just add them. And that was kind of how I would spread my music. And
networking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And early on, I always thought like, I never went to shows, so I didn't really, and I'd hear about bands from the internet, so I thought like, I don't need to play shows, I can just spread my music online, and that worked. I just started playing live shows this year. So
that's like pretty early adopter attitude, really, because like, I'm at that age where I was like, I gotta play a gazillion shows. Like, I felt like when I was on the come up, it was like if you were playing 3 shows a weekend, then you were like grinding, and the truth was like, if you were grinding, you were like getting popular on the internet, not in real life. You feel me? So that's pretty smart approach that you took, I would say.
It just happened to be because that's
on
where
accident.
because I just lived on the internet.
So, that makes sense.
So that's all I knew.
Well, that's interesting. Living on the internet, did you, like, other than the nerdcore rap stuff, like, did you find any other obscure scenes that you kind of, like, delved into?
I don't know. I wouldn't say, like, scenes, really. Like, it's just, like, discovering a lot of different things. So there'd be, like, some heavy stuff I'd be listening to, like the Number 12 Looks Like You and metal stuff or whatever. And then I'd be listening to Jack Johnson and Regina Spektor also. So it just made me kind of have, like, a vast taste in music.
That's
and
interesting.
Stuff,
And then why did you decide to homeschool for your 11th and 12th grade years? Like, you said you homeschooled yourself.
Yeah, I just took classes online and like got my degree online, and I just really was just like, let me focus on making music, even though I did. It's like now when I look back on it, I was like, I didn't know what I was doing making music. I didn't know like how to record stuff properly and stuff, but I just thought it was something that I really wanted to do. So if the more I did that, I'd be home all day, so I'd have more time to work on music. I could wake up, work on music, and then maybe like towards the middle of the day or at night do my school stuff. So,
Is that what you really did, or did you just like spend most of the day like dicking around doing nothing?
Well, at first the thing is my mom, I feel like she kind of like caught on to it, and she was like, I know what you're gonna do. So she had me go over to my aunt's house during the day, and then I'd work on my schoolwork there, and then like after I was done with it, then I'd start I'd even have my like laptop over there, and then I'd start working on music or something, or like I'd take a break in the middle of the day and start working on music. And then after a while she's like, all right, you can just stay home. And then sometimes I'd be working on music all day, and then just at the very last minute do my schoolwork.
Did you ever get into like, did you ever party in high school? Did you like go out at night and like drink beers and smoke weed and stuff?
No.
Really?
I've never been like a drinker or anything like that. And it was funny because like hanging out with my bandmates, which I just met them like this year, they're all saying like, well, you don't drink or anything, and then they thought about it, and they're like, it'd be kind of weird because you're like at home by yourself all day, so it'd be kind of sad.
You'd just be like a straight alcoholic.
Exactly.
That's funny. So when you start homeschooling yourself, did your friend group look at you like, damn fool, you dropped out of high school? Was that like or were they just like, oh wow, you're like a real go-getter?
They all kind of like, they all just knew what I was doing, I guess. I don't know how they really perceived it. But I slowly just stopped really hanging out with them as much. And some of them like moved to different schools. Some of them moved out of town. But I just kind of like slowly like lost contact with a lot of them. But also it ended up being one of those things where I got to a point where I didn't really want to go out and hang out. Like I would rather stay in and make music. Even when I did hang out, I'd be outside being like, man, I wish I was working on a song right now, or this is part I'm stuck on in the song and all this stuff. So I ended up,
you just be living in your own head.
Exactly.
That's interesting. It almost makes me think that like it would be hard to relate to other kids that are like 16, 17 years old when they don't know what the fuck they're doing, and you already like have your eyes set on the goal. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I know what I want to do with my life, and I'm concentrated on that. Meanwhile, all the other fools are like out drinking beers and smoking weed and just like whatever nonsense.
To me, I thought of it like as they had an idea also because I was like, oh, like they're planning on going to college or they're planning on going to the military or whatever. Like I'm just like, oh, I guess this is what I'll do and it'll work out. So to me, like I knew what I wanted to do, but I thought everyone else also knew what they wanted to do, kind of.
Right.
So, yeah. And then I figured out later as time went on.
Nobody ever really knows what they want to do.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
If you still feel like you know what you want to do, like you're on a better path than me. You know what I'm saying? So, are you showing your music to people at that time? Like, you're putting it on MySpace, I assume, but like, does anybody in your real life like hear it and like, yo, were you already going by Yuno?
Yeah, well, people at my high school and stuff were calling me Yuno. They're like, because I had a screen name that was Yuno Yomi Dude.
Okay.
And then that's what my music name was at first. And one of my friends just called me Yuno for short. And then it just kind of caught on and stuff. Yeah. So I was using that for the longest time.
So like people in real life, were they like looking at your MySpace page like, yo, man, you're like kind of onto something?
Yeah, some people were just like, oh, it's funny because it was also, that was another thing I did get into was anti-folk. So like I was into that like Moldy Peaches type stuff.
Kimmy Dawson.
Stuff. Yeah, Kimmy Dawson and all that stuff. So I was, it's kind of like very like poppy and like silly and sloppy sounding.
Whimsical lyrics.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. When I was first writing lyrics, I had no clue I was writing about random stuff. I'd like, oh, the dragon and the dog walking down the street.
Right.
All this stuff. And people were just like, oh, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
So the people
I interviewed
like,
Kimmy Dawson once.
Really?
Yeah, a long time ago, and I didn't really know that much about her, but we got into like the best conversation about like farting and pooping, which is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. But I was like, wow, Kimmy Dawson is like so whimsical. She's very hilarious. Yeah. So anyway, proceed.
Yeah, but yeah, I was just kind of writing songs like that, and my friends, they thought it was like cool sounding or funny sounding or whatever, and catchy and stuff like that. There's a lot of it being catchy was a big thing, and people just saying like, oh, I can't stop singing that little la 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 or whatever, which still continues now.
I mean, I've had your fucking la 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 la. It's like stuck in my head all fucking day. So yeah, that still happens. Was there a light bulb moment where things with your musical direction kind of clicked for you, like a specific song perhaps, where you were just like, oh, like this is what I've been trying to achieve?
Kind of. There was like one song that was like the first kind of serious song that I made, and it was, I guess, it was the first time where I was kind of like leaning away from like the anti-folk, like acoustic guitar stuff, and then started doing more electric guitars in my recording. Yeah. Then I was like, okay, like I can make something that sounds real and sounds kind of like, I don't know, something new, basically.
Right. Yeah. Because so everything you do is self-produced. So I mean, like the tinkering process to get to where you are with the sound quality must have taken a lot of experimentation. Yeah
definitely. It's always a constant learning process. I'm still learning stuff and like figuring out what gear I want to get for my next record and all this stuff.
Are you still on FL?
No, I'm in Ableton now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that happened, like I took kind of like a gap because basically I ended up switching over from PC to Mac. Yeah. And then I had to learn Ableton because I couldn't use FL Studio.
Right.
So yeah.
I think FL finally is available on Mac.
Yeah,
now,
just happened. But it's like, oh, I already learned.
I got to re-download FL. Yeah.
I was thinking about it, but like I don't know if I'll do it or not. We'll see.
It's like such an easy program for people who are like music illiterate. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't speak any music language, but I can look at it and go, oh, tick, tick, tick. Okay, this makes sense.
And I'm still like that because like even with like my bandmates and I'm trying to teach them one of my songs and they're like, oh, do I play 16th notes? And I'm like,
and you're like, what?
I don't know. And I'm like, play it like this. And he's like, oh, statato? I'm like, sure, if that's what that is.
Yeah, gracias. Like,
bless you.
Yeah. That's good. So when does it like really start catching on to the point that like Sub Pop picks you up? Because Sub Pop, legendary record label. I mean, Nirvana was on Sub Pop for a while. I mean, if you guys don't know what Sub Pop is, they're like huge, like one of the biggest major indies, I guess. Yeah.
When I first started making music, I sent Sub Pop a demo.
Oh, really?
Like, they never heard it. Probably ended up in the garbage or something, but still ended up on Sub Pop. So
that's crazy. So like that's one of the labels that you were interested in, or is that the definitely. Only label you sent it to, or did you send it to a bunch of people?
I sent it to Sub Pop and like some small French label that had like a few bands that I liked on it. Yeah. And that was it.
Yeah. And so they never heard it, but how do they end up hearing of you?
Well, basically, Ish, who's in Shabazz Palaces and Diggable Planets, he became an A&R at Sub Pop, he was just browsing online, I guess. We don't even know exactly how he stumbled across it, but he found my stuff on SoundCloud, and then he just reached out and was like, hey, like I like your stuff, and that was it. We kept in contact for a while, like about a year, 2 years, something like that, and then he's like, hey, I want to show your music to the rest of the people at Sub Pop if that's okay. I'm like, Yeah, it's
Damn.
okay.
Were you a Diggable Planets fan, or like did you know about Ish?
It's funny because like I knew about Shabazz Palaces and I knew a bit about Diggable Planets, but I didn't know until I was like looking him up. I was like, oh, that's the same person.
Yeah, right. I mean, what a career. I mean, that dude was like the coolest hipster rapper when I was in elementary school, and then he became like the coolest fucking hip rapper in my adult life as well. Definitely. Like, what a career. Fashion icon too. So shout out to Ish for finding you. What an ear. That's fantastic. So is it validating when he hits you up? Like, how do you feel? Like, oh my God, this is like gonna work out, or what?
Yeah, it was one of those things where like I'd spoken to like a few people at like different labels, or some people would just like find my music and reach out, but then not really follow up much. But he was always like constantly checking in, like, how you doing? You working on anything? Blah blah blah, and just like becoming friends. Would you send him
stuff, like new stuff that other people weren't hearing?
As the thing is, not even really, because like I'm very like private with my music a lot of times. Like I don't like to send stuff to people or like put stuff out when it's not really where I'm happy with it, because I don't want to give the wrong impression. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to send something and be like, all right, this is what I'm working on, but the drums aren't right and the guitar sounds terrible and blah blah blah.
And so, then when you send people something at that stage, they fall in love with it, and then when you finish it to your standards, they're like, why'd you change that? I liked it how it was. And you're like, fuck.
Yeah, so I always kept that stuff really closed, and but still he just like kept in touch and everything, and then without me putting out anything within like that year or two that we were talking, he still showed it to people at Sub Pop.
Yeah, that's so sick.
Yeah.
And so they fly you out to Seattle.
Yeah.
And wine and dine you.
Yeah.
and did you have the record finished at that point? Like,
no, I hadn't even.
Did you have demos?
I had like some stuff that I was messing around with. Like I had one song, Y4, that's on the EP.
Yeah.
And that was just like a freestyle that I recorded where like I was just playing guitar and just making up whatever lyrics came to mind.
Yeah.
And then I had that sitting around for the longest time. Didn't know what I was gonna do with it. Then when it came time to record the EP, I was like going back and listening to stuff I had. And then that one I was like, oh, I could add some distorted guitars and 808s and all this stuff on it. So I had like some things like that, but most of pretty much everything from the EP was after I signed with Sub Pop.
No kidding. Wow, that's amazing. They showed some great faith in your talents, and it really paid off, I feel like. Now, why in this day and age, I mean, this is just an opinion question. Like, you have your hands in everything that you do. You self-produce, you work on the artwork, you do this, that, and the other. You've handled all your marketing to this point. What made you decide that you wanted to be on a label rather than just pursue it independently?
Because basically I had pretty much been pursuing it independently, and it's just been like a long road.
You could only get it so far.
Yeah, exactly. I realized there's like some people who are able to really build like this fan base and everything and have these people that support them. And I had that, but not at a level where I was like making a living off of music and stuff. So I didn't know necessarily like what I could do more. And even like stuff like hiring a publicist, like that takes money, which I didn't have the money to do that sort of thing. So then if I'm working with a label, they have the publicist at the label. So stuff like that.
Yeah, tell me some of the extra benefits that you get being on an established label like Sub Pop, like that you, besides a publicist, that you wouldn't be able to get on your own.
Yeah, I'd say like in general, just like being on that label, then people check me out because I'm on that label, and then
because they have a reputation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And even like stuff like distribution and like the way they plan out like the release of something is stuff I never thought about or knew about at the time.
Yeah.
And like we had like a whole meeting where I flew out to Seattle just to talk about, okay, first we're gonna put out this, and we're gonna put out this single, and we're gonna send it to these people and work on getting it on these services or these like radio things or whatever and stuff like that. It's like stuff I didn't know about, and
they just have it dialed in. Like, we know this isn't our first rodeo. We know how to do this.
Exactly.
Shit.
Yeah. And even like getting like afterwards, until the first single came out, I didn't have a manager, didn't have lawyers, didn't have like any of that stuff. So like now having all those things in place, it's also a lot of stuff that I didn't understand, didn't know was a thing, didn't know existed.
Yeah. Now them publishing and royalty checks are on point and shit.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of which, did you see my tweet that they were playing your song on the plane?
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Have people been texting you about that?
I've heard like a lot of different places. Like I've heard like people in like coffee shops and restaurants and stuff and hearing it. And then when it was on the airplane, actually, we played this Sub Pop Fest in Seattle like a month or so ago, and I was always talking about like, man, people keep telling me they hear my songs in places, but I never had that experience.
Yeah.
And when we were getting on the plane to fly back to Florida, they were playing it.
Were you on Alaska Airlines?
Yeah.
Hey, shout out Alaska Airlines, lifelong member and shit. But yeah, I was like flying back from New York, and I went, holy shit, I'm interviewing this guy in 2 days. I was like astounded. That's another reason that I assumed you must be from Seattle, because there's like a Seattle-based company. You know what I'm saying? But I was like, whoa, that's so crazy. Yeah. Big things, man. Big things popping. So during the time that you signed to Sub Pop and the time that you were finishing the record, did they have a lot of creative input? Like, were you having to like get things approved, or did they just trust you fully with your creative vision?
Yeah, they completely trusted
That's
me
amazing.
to where it was like very weird to me. Like, like I would just be like, all right, these are the songs I have, and they're like, okay.
Yeah.
And like I was thinking like maybe they'd be like, oh, we need some extras. Do you have any other stuff? And maybe they'd like want to pick and choose. But like every song that I recorded for the EP is just all of what's on the EP. There's no bonus tracks. There's nothing.
Really?
Yeah, on the cutting room floor. Like I picked the order of the songs.
That's dope.
Yeah.
And also they lucked out because like how many songs are on there? 7? Six?
Yeah.
Out of the 6, I think like 3 of them are singles at least, right? So like they lucked out and where they had a easily marketable project. So that trust went a long way, man.
Yeah,
they did good. They did good.
Yeah.
So what's next?
Another record, basically.
Yeah.
Doing this touring and stuff.
How are you liking touring? This is your first time playing with a band, you said.
Yeah. I've been liking it. It's like one of those things where there's like it has its pros and cons. It's like great getting to travel because there's a lot of places I haven't been. Like I said, I barely left the house in Jacksonville.
Right.
So yeah, I'm going to a lot of different cities and stuff, meeting all these new people. Like I've been putting out my music online for all this time, so now I get to see people in person telling me like, oh,
like
I love
jamming
your music.
along and shit.
Yeah, exactly, and seeing them rock out at the show and stuff.
Which is a very different experience.
Yeah. And even with like some of these shows or like support shows of Superorganism, most of them are, and then some are headlining shows just kind of in between, or there are some leading out.
Yeah.
And it was cool to go to like random cities and see people like show up at the show and like, oh, I don't know anyone from this city. I didn't know people in this city listen to my music, but they're showing up to my show.
Right.
So yeah,
this your first tour?
Yeah. Basically, I did a short tour with Twin Shadow at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
That was like 5 shows over 2 weeks. So those are the very first shows.
It's kind of interesting though how there's a parallel between like keeping to yourself at home and touring, because touring really, even though you're like going all these places and seeing people, you're only seeing people for about a half an hour at a time. And then you're like by yourself again in a green room or on a van, right?
Well, it's just mostly the band together and stuff. So we're all together at times. So we have this like.
But even then, you got headphones on probably. Like
we go in and out. We try to like not stay on our headphones too much.
Yeah.
But like because we want to talk and kind of entertain people, because or else it'll be like really quiet and stuff. So we've gotten to know each other really well. But we all definitely know that we need our alone time and stuff too.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's the thing is I always found touring like to be kind of isolating. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, you're gonna like transition into touring so easily because like you're used to being isolated. Okay, so you said that you just met your band members. How did you meet them?
Basically, my drummer, he heard my music online. He lived in Jacksonville, so he was saying like, if you ever need a live drummer, let me know. And then the tour came up earlier this year with Twin Shadow and like Sub Pop. They were like, yeah, you should really do this tour. It'd be a really good idea.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't have a band. We got to do this in like a month and everything. So I reached out to the drummer and I was like, hey, you said you'd be my drummer. I need a drummer now. He's like, all right. So he's like, okay. I'm like, do you know anybody else that would be willing to join the band? He's trying to think, and he's like, oh, my roommate plays a bunch of instruments. So we got him to play bass and guitar on that tour. And then now he's still playing bass on this tour. And then got another member from another one of my band members, like other bandmates or whatever. And now he's joining, and like another one of his friends is a tour manager. So like just got like all of them together.
Right. And have you found it to be more comfortable on stage playing with other people, or do you occasionally wish like, oh, that you could just do it from your laptop?
No, I feel too exposed or something, or feel too alone if I'm by myself on stage.
Yeah.
Like even when I'm on stage with them, I like it when they also talk and I'm not just the only one saying like, hey, what's up, man? Yeah. I like talking to them while I'm on stage.
You're like, hey, you say hi to San Francisco tonight.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah. How's your on stage banter? Are you getting used to it?
I'm getting more used to it. It kind of depends from show to show, like how I'm feeling that day, how the crowd is and stuff. But yeah, I'm definitely getting more used to it, more comfortable. At first, I didn't know what to do because it's like I'm used to just being by myself at home, and then now I'm on stage with a microphone, knowing that like people paid money to come hear what I'm gonna say through this microphone.
So it better be something cool.
Exactly.
Better be something cool. You know, you have your whole life to make your first album or your first EP, as the case may be, and then you only have like about a year to follow it up. Do you feel the pressure for that, or are you feeling inspired?
I'm definitely feeling inspired. I don't really feel the pressure as much, just because like pretty much all the stuff that was on the EP was like new stuff that I recorded like after deciding to do the EP. So it's not a collection of things I've made up until this point. So I feel good about that. Like I did it once basically, so I could do it again.
The juices are still flowing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good, man. Yeah. Well, when you get home, you're going to start working on the next thing?
Yeah, definitely, as soon as possible.
Looking forward to it?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I am too. Yeah, man. It was great to finally meet you. Hopefully we'll still get you in the studio for performance over at my end in LA. And this was dope. Tell the people where they can find you online.
YVNX on Instagram. I guess Facebook.
YVNX.
YVNX.
Bro, not Facebook. You're on Twitter. What's your Twitter?
Twitter. YVNO.
YVNO and YVNX. You got to have your lawyers settle that so that you got one across platform.
I tried.
You got people working for you now, bro.
Yeah.
So YVNX on Instagram. Follow him. YVNO on Twitter. Listen to Moodie. It is a great EP. One of my favorites of the year. I think it is just a delightful listen. It's very short to get through. I like to put it on in the shower because it's about almost done by the time I get out. I take long showers. All right. Don't judge me. Other than that, thank you so much. My name is Lee. Some of you guys might know me as Intuition. You can follow me on Twitter at It's Intuition, and you have been tuned into Skullcandy's podcast. You feel me? Stick around after the show for a discount code. Corporate sellout shit. You know how I get down. All right, man. We'll see you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to You Feel Me. If you want to hear more, go to skullcandy.com/music. Want a pair of headphones like the ones we used for today's episode? As a special thanks to our listeners, we're giving you 30% off your next Skullcandy order with the promo code MUSICYOUCANFEEL. That's MUSICYOUCANFEEL. Subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast app now to stay up to date on our latest episodes.